On today's episode of Wellness on the Rocks, I am joined by the Director of Guest Services for Hotel del Coronado to talk about some of the foundational elements of the hospitality industry. He is an awesome guy to sit down and have a conversation with. I genuinely feel like every time I talk to him, I learn something new about this industry. He's one of my regulars at the bar, a very positive, kind, selfless guy who has a real passion for this industry and what he does for a living. In our conversation today, we get into the history and origins of tipping culture, some of the deeper and more personal reasons why we work in the hospitality industry. We talk about dating in the industry and a lot of other great stuff. Welcome, Corey Menotti. Like, you've been a Padres fan your whole life?
Yeah, I grew up in San Diego, so
okay.
It's by attrition. But the worst part of being a Padre fan is that they've been so bad for so long. You get into a place where you're just used to mediocrity and worse.
Yeah.
So
I can't. I mean,
cheering on that kind of misery.
Do you have coming off, 2 years ago, my first year in San Diego, they had the conference series, and it was like, oh my gosh, the Padres, like we have so much hope.
Dodgers.
Yeah, they beat the Dodgers. That was so fire.
That was my World Series.
And then they have the highest roll in baseball, or second highest roll, and they just don't even make the fucking playoffs
We
last year.
pooped the bed a bit.
So it's like, how do you feel about this coming up year? Like, what are your hopes? What are your thoughts?
Let me tell you, 19 years of season tickets.
Okay.
And this year, I didn't re-up.
Wow.
My special seats,
Damn.
doing the whole routine out there. It's not because it's nothing against the Padres, although I tried to parlay that into a little bit better, I was trying to parlay that into a deal. They raised my ticket price like 15%, 20%, ridiculous. And I was like, okay. Yeah, it was a little over the top. And I thought maybe I could use that, but really I can't go to 81 games. I used to get to 72 games regularly. Leave work, come right there. And so now I'm just working too much. I'm literally in the same hotel and the same business and the same thing, but I'm just doing so much more. I can't predict when the fuck I'm going to get off work.
Yeah, so it's almost like cheaper just to buy
I
single
buy
tickets
when I want, and I'll stand in my section and I'll go when I want to go, and I won't feel like, God, I should have sold 25 tickets this year to somebody.
Yeah, it becomes like a mind game almost. So you're a super fan. I mean, we've been at the bar and we've seen you on TV.
ESPN?
That's not a joke. Like, whenever the game is televised, like, I think Dave took a picture and put it on the social media once of you in the mascot,
He's a friar.
The friar.
The friar.
And you're like, yeah, and you're getting around in the cone. I'm like, holy crap, dude, that's one of our regulars. That's crazy.
I haven't, with MLB, I'm not just one meme. I've been a series of memes every year for about 12 years.
Wow.
And so they're all progressively funnier. For some reason, they've glommed onto me as this sort of like the super fan sort of situation. But it's not just me. It's a series of guys. I set together in emotion something that was a series of people that we call the Right Field Mission. And the Right Field Mission is really a series of people in robes. The intent was to have somebody in a robe in our section at every single game. And not just one. On big games, you'd have 8 guys. I have extra robes I bring to the games.
So you can hand them out, yeah.
And we robe up. That's what we call it. We're not getting dressed up. We're not in a costume. We're not playing fairies here. We're robing up. Right? It's a solemn thing.
Yeah, I wish I could, think of myself as like a super
As a Patriots fan, what are you going to do? Show up and like storm the Capitol on January 6th?
There's this guy, they do have the super fans, the Silver Bullets, the guys who dress up in the Musketeers. But I mean, you really got to be like diehard. That's how this whole thing started as a sports podcast. Really? Because it was like it was like the last third of Brady's career. And I was just like, dude, we're in the Michael Jordan era of football with one of the GOATs. And I was like, I want to somehow capture this moment because I look back at Michael Jordan and those times as like magic. Like when I'm growing up as a kid.
Magic Johnson, or just like
No, like
Milagro.
I just think it's like this. Like when I was a kid, Michael was going through the end of his career when I was like 8, 9, 10. And
He's
or I was
playing
like,
baseball. He's playing World Series of Poker. Like, what's going on with Michael Jordan? I don't know. His father died. It just happened.
But I just think that like I don't know, that kind of drove me towards, talking about this stuff and creativity. So cheers. I'm glad we're finally sitting down.
Prost.
Appreciate you.
Nostrovia.
Thank you for inviting me in your home.
Chin chin.
I wanted to talk to you today because you are not only one of, our great regulars, and I think you have a great presence about you whenever you come in the bar. I think you come in, you give good energy, and you're a great person to have around. But also because the more I've gotten to know you, you work at Hotel del Coronado. You're the director of guest services. Mm-hmm. You have a very great reputation there. You've been there for how many years?
This is year 19.
Year 19.
2005 I started.
And we work in the same industry. We do different things. I just kind of wanted to pick your brain a little bit, and I have some questions for you because I think that you're very good at what you do. And it's one thing for whether it's sports, the Padres, Tom Brady, or hospitality. I think it's like doing something at a high level for so many years is different than like me coming out for a couple of years and just crushing a bartender, being like, yo, I'm a beast. You've done it for almost 2 decades. And I think that like it takes a lot. So my first question for you is...
Before we actually ask a question, can I just present something to you?
Yeah, sure.
I think this is important because this is a challenge coin I'm going to hand you. Those of you who listen to podcasts or have ever served in the military, there's something that's called a challenge coin, right? And so I've got a stack of these things. This particular one is for you. I got it for you because it's the Hotel del Coronado.
Okay.
And on the back, I want you to read those words.
If you are receiving this coin, thank you for your service.
Right. And oftentimes that's the phrase that we use when we talk about people in the military or people who have public service. But in this case, I present this to you for a particular reason, is because service and the service industry is so near and dear to my heart. It is the basis of my DNA. It is the center of and the core of my being. So when we talk and reframe this entire conversation, think of that. Thank you for your service, because part of what we do is for monetary gain, but that's only part of it. You're called to the service industry for a particular reason. There's something that the solar plexus twitches at a certain point when you feel that service for people and with people, it has meaning to it and merit and weight and gravitas. And what you're looking at there is a good piece to sort of center this conversation around. Thank you for your service.
Fuck yeah, dude. Cheers. Thank you very much.
Amen.
Fuck yeah.
I go to the bar that you serve at, and I've known you for a bit of time, and I have this great, you have the presence at a place like that gives me great joy to watch. And I've seen a lot of bartenders at that particular bar. And those people have owned that bar. How long has it been open now?
16 and a half years.
16 and a half years. Yeah. That's a shit ton of time to keep open something like that. And servers and bartenders behind that bar, I have a great memory for names and places and people. And the presence of someone like you in a place like that, if those of you who don't know what we're talking about,
Stout Public House.
Public House is on 6th Avenue in downtown San Diego. It's right on the trolley line. It is where other Irish pub owners go to drink. That's the best way to say it. It's the pub's pub, if you will. And Taylor, in a very short period of time, has made it his own. I watched you, there's a certain point where you do some Adrian things. This is a bartender, by the way, that we're talking about. The 2 owners are Mark and Dave. Wonderful human beings, great families, love these gentlemen. But a guy like Adrian, I watch him and I sit there in wonderment.
I know.
And nothing's drawn me into an establishment. And this is what we're talking about here. Why do people keep coming back? Why do people come back to an establishment? That's where the value rises exponentially at return service, right? And so I just wanted to compliment you and leave you with that. I can go on complimenting you for days, but I just wanted you to know your service is appreciated every fucking time I come into that bar.
Thank
Because
you.
why? You greet me, you know me, you make me feel at home. You give me a purveyance of alcohol, which is to sustain us after our life in chains in the service industry. And in fact, you fit right into a place like that, both with the staff and your engagement with people. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you very much. It's a good fit. Yeah. Well, I think that you are somebody who comes into the bar and is a giver. And I feel like there's bar people who like understand that. So there's when you work in a restaurant, I feel like there's people who come in and suck the energy out of you, or hospitality, whether you're working at,
what's that
I've
like?
worked at coffee shops and restaurants and all sorts of stuff. But I feel like you come in and you don't take. You're like, hey, what's going on, guys? You give out that good energy. It's like a mirror. So that's what I always kind of felt like that about you and some of the great customers that we have there. So I appreciate you saying this is fucking. I can't believe this is wild. I didn't know.
Isn't that cool? Yeah. Thank you for your service.
So you've been doing this you are in your 50s, and what was your first job in hospitality and why did you get into this industry?
Good question. And I have to think back because I worked 13 years in emergency medicine, which was a formidable part of forming me as a human being and as a person. And by that, I mean, I worked in emergency rooms, ERs, where you see the people at their worst, right? Your most stressful situation.
What did you do for the ER?
Good question. What I did was I worked with attending physicians, and attending physicians are professors in essence, and they do these studies. So I started off working at UCLA when I was going to school there, and I worked I worked for the police department as a security guy, and then eventually into a position where I was an admitting worker. So I admit nothing, but I worked as an admitting worker. People coming into the hospital needed to be, write down all their insurance information, their name, and then get them registered. Moved on to a place where I was a study coordinator, which is basically taking all of the information that comes in a university hospital setting, UCLA, UCSF, Stanford Healthcare, and you take that information and you feed stuff to different physicians. The attending physicians publish or perish, and which means that they will take in, they want to do a study, let's say on CVAs, cerebral vascular accidents, a stroke. They might have to do a study that's on traffic accidents, gunshot wounds, motor vehicle accidents, those sort of things. And they have a study that they want to do for, let's say, 22-year-olds to 48-year-olds. So they want to do 80 years old or older who have had a stroke. And so you would curate all of those patients.
You're talking about like paperwork and stuff like that?
Starting off with paperwork.
Okay.
But you would be like, there's an abdominal pain in room 6. There's a motor vehicle accident here. There's a guy coming in with a bullet room in room 4. So I would like, I'm doing a study on all 3 of those things.
You're almost like the expo of the hospital.
Yeah. But you're doing this for the attending physicians. I don't want to get mired down in the bullshit of that. But in essence, what you did was you tried to curate cases for those attending physicians to be able to write studies on. Studies are things like we gave this particular drug at this time during a stroke and it cured it, and eventually that sets precedents throughout the entire world with regards to these studies. Wonderful, beautiful. But you leave work each day after a 12-hour shift, and someone might have died, or you're seeing people at their absolute worst. I want to preface that with a bookend. I started my real work, as a kid working in restaurants and shit like that. But the very first thing in San Diego was working at the La Jolla Marriott. I was 17, 18 years old. I was playing football here in college, and I was in a place where I was actually working at this hotel. Worked in the pool, worked in room service, and I remember when I went on to go to UCLA, I was like, fuck, I love this. People coming in, it's travel. It's like, there was something exciting and sexy about people traveling and coming in for vacation. They weren't here for business.
It's like that quick, you're here and for a quick time and then you're gone. Mm-hmm. It's almost like, hooking up with chicks who you go to a city and I'm here for one night, ladies. Everyone loves you. Yeah.
I'm taking all comers here. Any partner storm. Yeah, exactly. So in essence, that was it. I remember seeing that fun thing and making people's, just making their stay and getting to know them. And I thought, fuck, I want to do this for a living. But then I moved and went to UCLA, and I started working in hospitals, and that was on the periphery. I didn't even think about it. I thought I was always going to be working in hospitals.
Yeah.
Moved back down to San Diego. Come down here to San Diego. My folks still live here. My sister lives here. My brothers. I'm from a very big San Diego family, and so I remember coming back here thinking, I don't want to work in hospitals anymore. I'm sick of sick people. Yeah. And a friend said, let's meet down at the Hotel Del Coronado. We'll go have some cocktails and go get a lunch and sit down and talk. So we did that, and we went to go leave, and he said, you don't want to work in hospitals anymore. What about hotels? When we were kids, you used to love to work in hotels. And I was like, oh yeah, I did used to love to do that. And so I thought, this is a hotel. I was like, I used to love to come here as a kid. We'd all come down to the beach and do all sorts of crazy things or play tennis and all that. And I thought, I'm going to go apply for a job, just on a whim. Yeah. So I'm walking down on the front drive. I'm marveling at the architecture, looking at the people coming in. I thought, yeah, I want to do this again. And this woman was walking by. I said, excuse me, human resource department around here? And she said, come, I'm going down there right now. Come with me. We start talking. And as we're talking, I realize she's the director of fitness, of recreation and the spa. And she says, let me introduce you to somebody. So she gets me into the front door. I get introduced to the guy at the desk. We fill out some paperwork. He goes, I think I got a job for you. Give me 5 minutes. Calls the boss over from reservations and said, talk to this guy. We sat down for 10 minutes. He goes, can you start tomorrow? I said, yeah, of course. So suddenly
Would you start in as?
As a reservation agent. I was just the guy that would call in with the sexy voice and be like, hi, would you like to book a room right now? I give good phone.
That's fucking.
I give.
You're fucking. So you did your voice was what? That's really interesting. Yeah.
I've done a lot of voice work, by the way.
Really?
I'm a trained actor. Did theater at UCLA when I went to school there, and did a lot of voiceover work. Did stand-up comedy.
No fucking way.
Yeah, no.
How long did you do stand-up comedy for? How'd that go?
It was terrible.
It's so challenging. Yeah. It's like, that's such a big, you know what? I'm not as much anymore. Like doing this was a big fear for me and I've gotten over it. So I know that I could get over it. The concept of like writing, like, I don't know, my brain's not at that point yet. Like how far did you get in that? Like,
pretty good, pretty far. I worked.
What was your routine like that you got to?
Oh, dude, I worked with the Groundlings back in the Second City, the Groundlings in Los Angeles. If you don't know what these are big improv groups and comedy clubs in training sessions. So I did that. I went to at UCLA. I did movies, theater. Movies
that was
are like
the classes you were taking.
Those were the classes I was taking. So we would do most student productions and things like that. But,
yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Commercials.
So what was the longest stand-up routine you ever did?
Oh, I can do 40 minutes standing on my head. I can still do one from memory. Yeah. There's a lot of bad ones. A lot of it's topical stuff, and so you have to, if you're not preening, that goes out and this one comes in.
Right, it's very quick. The topics come and go. You got to talk about what's hot.
Yeah.
Would you ever want to like do that, like as a hobby or for fun?
I actually
know there's not any money in it.
Himself short. Anytime we have big events, and I guess we don't want to pay like a proper comedian, they put Corey just on the stage, like especially when it's.
I'm the house MC.
Let's say
that's stout as well.
Like an employee appreciation event, they're not going to pay for a real comic.
Yeah.
They go fucking. We're gonna save $500 tonight, Corey. Give me 5 minutes.
But
it's not. It's like 6 hours. It's the whole event, and he has a joke for every single person that comes and leaves on that property. I think that's the testament for Corey is that he knows every single person, so he can roast or just be very kind to them, depending on how he knows they'd respond.
And I can do it in multiple languages. That's the thing. Tagalog.
So you started out in hospitals, and you felt that there was, you were kind of over it, and then you were like, there's more to life. You got into the hotels, and from there you kind of worked your way up to guest services.
Correct.
And manager. Yeah. There's a lot I want to ask about that, but before we get to the future, I want to start with the beginning. If you could write yourself a letter today, and you can hand it to yourself on your first day at Hotel Del, what would you say to yourself?
Turn around, run.
Seriously?
Leave.
No, stop playing.
Go away.
Do you feel that way?
No.
Okay.
Are you kidding? I fell in love with the place and all of its quirks and craziness. It's 28 acres of madness, and it's Disneyland without the walls and all the craziness. But I never am bored. I know how I am, and when I get bored,
Yeah.
I run, walk away quickly, don't look back. And this place has never once bored me.
So what about it keeps your mind constantly stimulated?
It's never the same. I think that is probably it. It's never the same each day when I go in. Every day, something may pop up. And there's a certain point after, let's say, 10 to 12 hours of working.
Yeah.
Which is those are the kind of days I put in.
Yeah.
And there's a certain point where I'm like, fuck, I don't know what the hell I did today. Like, what did I get accomplished today? And then I have to do this pep talk with myself. I do a recap in my head when I come home, and it's something along the lines of, oh yeah, you did get that in. You did make contact with Mr. and Mrs. Johnson. The Rabinowitzes are happy. The Joneses are coming in next week. Holy crap. How did I get that all in at 12 hours? But in the moment, as you're leaving after that, the thing you think is, what the fuck did I do today? Now, it's different. I mean, the service industry, as we talk about as our sort of subject matter and sort of the wellness of that, like how does one keep sort of in the right frame of mind to be able to serve guests? And that is, to me, the magic of it all. If I could, what did you say, write a letter to myself?
If you could write a letter to yourself today, just like any advice or what you change or anything, like however you want to take that question.
Keep the faith is the first thing. You're doing the right thing. You're on the right path. Don't stop. Keep going. So it's this thought of like, your instincts were right, motherfucker. Move forward.
Yeah.
Don't go backwards. Don't look in the rearview mirror. Go forward. And so that's been important in my life. There's been a lot of things in my life. I was addicted to drugs for a long time, and I got over those particular things. I went into rehab and moved myself out of that. I have immunocompromised HIV. I've had that for over 30 years. And there's like a series of things I could tell you about I was homeless. I lived on the streets.
Life perspective.
Yeah. So much of a good chunk of my life was overcoming these things. And so the constant conversation I have with myself is a pep talk. And it's something that was instilled for me from my family, parents, brothers, and my brother and my sisters, my brothers and sisters. I'm from a big family, as I said earlier, in San Diego. And that sort of has saved me, right? Having that good base, right, of part of it is like faith in the human condition, the love for mankind, all of those things that are the elements of what service is all about is what I look at and I think, I'm built for this. I'm built for this. And I'm one of 7 kids. And I look at all of my brothers, and each one of them, they're so perfectly placed in all of their careers.
Where are you in that line?
Well, I'm in near the end. There's 7 of us. Nicky is my youngest brother. He's about 7 years difference, but everybody else is 1.5 to 2 years apart.
You're 6?
What's that?
You're 6 of 7?
I'm 6 of 7, correct.
My dad is 6 of 7 with one younger sister, 5 older brothers. Yeah, almost. Same thing? You have a younger sister?
Fucking same thing.
Really?
My sister's the head of the family, as
it's
I
the
like
other.
to call it.
Oh, so one sister and then 6 boys?
Yeah.
That's so wild.
I gotta meet this guy.
Yeah. I think, have you met him?
Yeah,
He'll be in.
No. Actually, your dad did come.
He's actually coming in a couple of months. My sister's moving to town, but that's
those of you who don't know, Taylor's from a great family. Just you have to get past his New England accent, but it's a damn good family.
That's interesting.
So let's talk about that for a second. I want to dive down in that for just a second to talk about what service and what service-minded people are like. And that is, like, I find that a lot of them, the people that I know, either came from larger families and they are used to serving people. And by that I mean, that serving is not the right word. It's a selflessness. Family, I mean, friends of mine and people that I know who I feel are less giving. I don't want to say selfish, that's too pejorative, but in essence, they're less cognizant of other people around them.
Selfless. Yeah.
Right. And those people that don't suck energy, as you said earlier, suck your time up, but actually are giving. And I've always thought I was like that, but I'm not the only one in my family like that. They're all like that. And that comes from a few things, having to share the bathroom with 5 brothers,
Yeah.
So, like having to mealtime all at the same time. It's this regiment of of like, your job today is to bring the food to the table, set the table, do the dishes. And it's like that was part of the community effort of my mother and father. That is the essence of, and in my DNA, that built me for a role in service.
Interesting.
What about you? You've got you're in your family. You've got
I have one sister.
your sister. Right.
Yeah, I have my dad's side came from retail stores, McQuade's family clothing business in Manchester, New Hampshire. But the reason they got into retail clothing was because they used to own liquor stores and Prohibition hit, so they had to change their ways. So there used to be a McQuade's whiskey with the bottle and the name and everything, but Prohibition changed everything and they had to get rid of that. And then on my mother's side, my grandfather, so my father's side was Irish, my mother's side was Italian, and
half Gaelic, half garlic.
my grandfather, my great grandfather was a mason builder in Boston, or Everett, Mass. I'm sorry. And my grandfather grew up with that. He had an arm. You moving bricks all day, you build an arm. And he became a quarterback in high school. He was a very good quarterback. He got a scholarship to Harvard University to play football as a quarterback.
So he was smart. He didn't just have.
Well, this was back in the night. This was pre-World War II.
Oh gosh.
And
Prohibition era football players.
He showed up and he didn't get along with whatever reason. I think he did a week or two, and he said, "I don't like this program," and he left from Harvard. He went to Dartmouth.
Really?
And he played football for Dartmouth.
Because is your father a drinker? I mean,
my grandfather?
Is your grandfather a drinker?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know, but
That's the old joke about Dartmouth boys drinking better than Harvard boys.
You're a UCLA guy. I don't know. Yeah. You played rugby?
No, I did play rugby, yeah.
Yeah, UCLA. Yeah. We've talked a little bit about that. But so my
For
grandfather played
not a long time.
Football at Dartmouth and then graduated college, didn't know what to do with his life. Actually, okay, I might fuck this up. It's either happens after high school and then he went to college, or this happens after he went to college. But I think he got out of college and it was the end of World War II and he enlisted in the Navy.
Like, the war's over. What are you going to do? Enlist.
No. The war was not over.
Okay.
So he did his time in the Navy and he did a very short I learned this very recently from my grandmother. And then he enlisted in the Navy, very short, like 3 months. The war ended, and he came home and he played professional baseball in Canada. He did that for a summer, then came back to the States. He coached high school football. So that's my family's very football oriented, and then from the coaching of football. So that's how he started earning income, and I might, be a little wrong on the time frame. Then they started a driving school. So he was the high school football coach, the local driving school, and that's how my grandfather and grandmother came to be.
Really?
And they were in the little town of North Attleboro, Massachusetts. They were the home that my grandmother still lives in. They were the first ones. They've been there for like 40, 50 years. So that's my side of the family. So it is that service, though, that service of giving back to your community, coaching football, teaching driving, and then I got the sales side of my father's side. That's where that kind of comes from. Is my dad is a fucking salesman.
In this case,
He's good at it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My father coached football in this town for almost 40 years.
In San Diego?
In San Diego,
oh,
yeah.
Wow.
So it's quite a prolific part of my life as well.
Wow. And in your
But I'm looking at, like, with your family, there's this entrepreneurial spirit, right? Service, owning a company, that sort of thing. Plus the understanding that, as my father used to say, he would, like his job, what do you do for a living? Yeah, I'm an educator. I train men. That's what my dad would say. Like,
fuck yeah.
I train men.
That's what you're doing. I mean, as a coach, like you're giving yourself a service, because coaches, even today, and I'm sure back then, they don't make any money.
Nope.
And it's like, as I used to be a teacher, I used to teach.
Yeah.
I was waiting tables at night and teaching during the day. And it's so hard to make a living teaching when you're in a big city like New York City. What I made in 1 week, I can make in a big night behind the bar. Isn't that fucking crazy? That's how the world works.
I ended up doing that too. I went in to get my teaching credentials through a program with Berkeley and San Francisco State. It was a combined one, regional one, and it was basically getting a master's degree in teaching. And it was like, I can do this. And I kept looking at what I was spending to do it and what I was going to make out of it in a 10-year run. And I was like,
what am I doing? I know it sucks that's the way that America is set up.
That was my family's profession. Like, I look at half of my cousins on my uncle's side, and they're all teachers. Like, they're service-minded individuals who wanted to educate the next generation. That's how they look at it. My father, I train men. Like that phrase, like, to me resonates to me. It's like
train men.
I train men.
Do you feel like you do that at Hotel Del Coronado? Like, how do you give back to the people that work for you and under you?
Nobody works for me. They work
really?
for Mr. Dell. Yeah.
But you are you're a leader.
You can't think like nobody works for me. They work with me.
So okay, maybe
I work alongside them. I work in the trenches with them.
But you're a leader.
Yeah, well,
I would say that
not a leader because I'm a director or a manager, but people follow me.
I would say so. What I haven't said is I worked at Hotel Del in the Eno Market coffee shop and pizzeria for the summer and then holidays.
You were awesome, by the way.
And I've gotten to know some of the people who work under you and work next to you and work, and everybody says great things about you. You're very helpful and you're a giver. And like I said about when you come to the bar, but like, how do you, so I know you're being very humble, but like, how do you not let people, but like help people grow in the industry while also doing what you're doing? Because not everybody does that.
That's a good point.
And I feel like you're somebody who does that.
There's two things that are part of the secret sauce. And that is one, that you have to know when you're on stage. And you have to know where backstage is. This is some of that theatrical
You're
training.
getting the backstage version right now. Cheers.
But that's the part, right? Like there's something where you're on stage and you're in the... Sorry, I didn't mean to not do that for the bartender. Here we go. By the way, Redbreast, am I tasting?
Yeah, it's Redbreast.
Wow.
I'm going to get another beer. How are you doing? You need another vodka soda?
I'll take a little of this, a little of that. This is the right subject matter.
Yeah.
You're perfectly placed to be able to do something like this. I've not even explored the idea. When you brought it up to me, I was like, fucking A. That's $1 million idea. This is something that there's so many people in our industry. Okay.
The thing is, anybody can do this. Mm-hmm. It's, do you put the time in to learn what this is, what the camera, there's so many different facets.
Well, I think some of your technical achievements with photography, because we've talked about that before. Yeah. Like you do make money in the service industry, but you have a passion that you have been able to, foster along the way. And that is photography. Where does that come from? It's
creativity. Oh. Not necessarily. Photography is like a lane.
One.
My brain I grew up in the creative world. There's the creatives and then there's the business side. And I grew up like I was just explaining to you, my dad comes from a sales, my whole father's side sales, and even on my mom's side, it's very results oriented. I tell my parents about doing this podcast and they say, how are you going to make money? Are you going to charge Corey to come on? And, I say, no, I say, I've gotten not deep enough, but I'm to a point where I'm like, it's about the work. Make the work happen. Focus on the content, focus on the work. Good work sells itself. And I think you do need both aspects, but there's so much in social media in the world today that's all about algorithms and the sales and how are you going to sell it. It's like people are so much more focused on that than they are on putting vulnerable, genuine work.
I watch sometimes with what people say is how do you monetize? We're talking about today about Reddit or Quorum or any of these things. We're going to go public. How is that going to work out? We've got millions of viewers and that's not how it works. And here's what I tell my staff every day. Tips will follow great service. You have one of my trick questions is, tell me what good service looks like to you, and tell me what great service looks like to you. What's that look like? Because I'm not asking like, has anybody ever been really terrible to you when you went to go get a hamburger and you were like, I'm not going to tip you. It's like, I don't fucking care about that. I want to know what good service means to you. That's the baseline.
Yeah.
That meets expectations. What is good service versus great service? And those are two different things. And what you've hit on is that the monetizing part of it, the tips, the gratuities, the things that pad our pockets and that give us life. By the way, where we move from this as a job to a career is a whole nother conversation. When we move from job to this is my life's calling. This is what I want to do. It is a noble profession, that the service industry. And it incorporates everything from food service to liquor sales to hospitality and coming into the hotel and travel. There's so many parts of this thing that sometimes is not for everyone, right? It's not for everyone, but it's a calling and it is a career choice is the conversation piece here.
Yeah.
And so I want to just bring that part of what you said to the forefront, is that your pockets will get bigger when you don't concentrate on hustling people. When you don't concentrate on trying to get whatever's in their pocket out of that pocket and into your pocket. When you try to just be genuine and sincere and welcoming and remember people and their names and the conversations. Like a lot of this is just that connectivity, what I like to call the suture, right? That in Sanskrit they will refer to as the sutra, like the Kama Sutra. This is that string that holds us all together. And once you bling 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 move into that musical instrument of all those tendrils going there, like this is the B, this is the A, this is the C. You start to understand a little bit about human connectivity.
I think there's different levels to that. I think you're absolutely right. I think not everybody has the privilege to do that. I think that you take the level of Hotel Del is one of the best hotels in Southern California.
Is it?
And I feel like you guys offer that level, but I'm trying to look at everybody from what you do to the GM of your place all the way down to the lowest guy. Mm-hmm. And I feel like when you're at the lowest guy, you do got to hustle it a little bit.
Yeah.
I agree with you, but there's also I don't know, man. There's something about the base of. I haven't figured it out yet. I don't have this fucking crazy thing. Is sales is about grinds and hunger a little.
So Steve Wynn, by the way, Sanjeev, our new GM, just sent me a little thing. It was a Steve Wynn thing that I thought was fascinating because it was on the subject that we're talking about right now, which is service. And what does service look like? And really, it was more like. Cast away all of the veils that come up in front of us as we're trying to connect, right? And again, this is all about connectivity, sales in this play, in this situation, or in being able to make a living, making a career out of your job, is connectivity. How close to the heart can you place? If you don't want to give all of your everything around.
Very good point.
But you do want to bring some sense of, I'm going to tell you this. The truth is, my mother used to think those things. It's trying to bring this and put these things together. When you're, we talked about earlier, right? Working as a bartender, you're part therapist and you're a listener.
Yeah.
How do you incorporate?
You get paid to listen, not to give your opinions.
Right. That's the old. Yeah. I mentioned Bart Simpson's cold beer and a sympathetic ear. Those are the fun things. Where they call 911 quick. Taylor's lost.
The red breast went down the wrong.
I know you like breasts, but I didn't know you liking that red.
I think there is a hustle to what. Well, so what you and me do is different. Mm-hmm. I work on commission. Yeah. You work on salary, right? And I think that
so they say.
Right. Okay. I have no idea. I guess that was a question.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
No, but I think that there is to.
Do you know what happens with the tips that they give to me? Guests give me tips every fucking. It's $100, $200. You know what happens to it?
Give it to your staff.
You give it to the staff.
Yeah, of course. That's what my great managers have done.
Why?
My great managers have done that.
Because I would love to be able to not pay for my drinks for the next week or whatever it is.
I guess But
I'd rather make sure that they're feeding their kids.
Of course. Because
looking to make this as a career choice, not as a, I can make money there, I can make money here.
You've figured it out. So and that's like why I'm
Isn't
I'm
this
talking
the
to
part
you.
of this fucking
Yeah,
podcast?
you've figured
Just
it
talk
out.
about wellness
Yeah.
and love and service and being.
Yeah, I think there's just levels. Like I think you got to have a little, like, to say that sales is a hustle. I feel like I think hospitality.
Everything's a
Hold
hustle.
on, let me hold on. Let me ask you this.
Everything's a hustle.
I think the hospitality industry. Oh, I almost it's like a hustle. You know what I mean?
You suddenly seem surprised.
No, I'm not. But it's almost like you're very passionate about what you do.
I love people.
I feel like I'm not as passionate as you, but
I love people. That's
but
why.
like there's part of this that we talked a little off, beforehand about the concept of tipping and how that started. And do you remember that conversation in that book you recommended me that I have not read? I tried to find the audiobook. It doesn't exist. Can you like go into why?
Give me a 2-minute.
Take 10.
story.
Take however long. Take your time. We're in no rush.
So the fun part of this story is about gratuities. And so people in the service industry understand that that's our livelihood, right? And so good service really is about where, first of all, knowing the history of it and understanding where it goes will make your life much easier. Anybody listening or watching this podcast will understand that understanding the history of America and its tipping culture will help you understand where it came from, where it is, and where it's going, right? Getting ahead of the curve. Tipping culture comes very specifically, started in Europe, and then very quickly moved to America in 2 facets. But more importantly, it left Europe. Europeans were like, we're not doing tipping anymore. Gratuities are for idiots.
When did it move over to America?
So let's go from Civil War,
Okay.
1860 to 1870, when we're going through Reconstruction. And the history of tipping is mostly predicated on a culture that came from Europe that quickly dissipated. Think about Civil War and think about what people did to make money post-Civil War. And in the United States, of course, the Pullman cars is the first place that I would start. If anybody doesn't know the history of the Pullman cars, I'll give you an 8-second understanding. These are luxury hotels on railroad tracks that move people from point A, New York, to point B,
Construction of
Chicago.
railroads. Okay.
The movement, there was a certain point in the United States history where all of the congealing of human beings were all on the East Coast. They needed, actually, if you're going to expand and you have this control of the entire continent, is to move things quickly into the other direction, to the West Coast. So as we developed something like the railroad, it actually built a place like the Hotel Del. So very quickly, large hotels or resorts, they weren't called that at that point, were points along the railroad's construction and movement from the east to the west. Part of the movement of many luxury hotels across the continent of the West came from the movement of the railroad. We actually, like the Hotel Del, very quickly was built because they heard a rumor that the terminus for the Southern Pacific Railroad was going to be in San Diego. So these guys, Babcock and Story, bought for $111,000 the Coronado's island. They parsed it up and then they sold off all those things in one day to the tune of $1.5 million, roughly just under $1.5 million. And then that is what they parlayed to build the Hotel Del. $600,000 with the construction portions of it, $400,000 roughly from all of the furnishings and things that they brought in from Europe. And it was about $1 million. And at that point, here's what happened. They discovered that the terminus for the Southern Pacific Railroad was not going to San Diego, as they had promised. It was going to Los Angeles to go through the Tehachapi Mountains, not over the desert. The history of big resorts, things like Banff in Canada, things like the Grand Hotel in Michigan, were all predicated on this rumor that the railroad was moving. They needed destination points for people to go to. So building the dream of travel, of luxury, of all of those things were predicated on the railroad's movement across the continent. It was building a dream to move across.
Crazy. Is there a guy who takes credit for this?
Thank you for asking. There are a couple of guys, but the one that we'll focus on right now is a guy named Charles Pullman.
Okay.
And the Pullman cart was basically going from New York to Chicago, a luxury cart. He said, I'm going to build a luxury hotel on wheels. And it brought people from one end of the continent to the mid-section of the continent.
So crazy to
and
think about
along
this.
the way, they built hotels. But as they moved further on the other side of the Mississippi, 1865, when the war ended, Civil War ended, 1870s, 1880s, the Hotel Del is built at the end of the 1880s, 1890s. You got 30 years of expansion. And it's moving people this way. You have wealth, come this way.
Yeah.
Fuck the Native Americans. You can roll over them. Fuck this, fuck that. But in essence, it was moving people to the west.
Yeah.
You wanted to move populations to populate and basically move across the continent. But in essence, they did it on two things. Vision. 1849, rumors of gold in California sparked everything because the Irish, the Italians, everybody were coming onto the East Coast.
Yeah, money.
There's work this way.
Yeah.
There's gold on the other side.
Yeah.
In essence, you were moving people, populations to the other side. But at the expense of what is another conversation. It's like, how many people did you roll over to get to that point?
I mean, that's it.
It's a different podcast.
Yeah, different podcast.
Different podcast.
Right.
But in essence, the movement of the Pullman cars from New York to Chicago is the essence of what this discussion right now, which is gratuity-based service came from the end of the Civil War and African Americans moving from the South to Chicago. And along that line, tips, like if you look at the vein.
So, yeah, can you go into the reason that I love everything you said, and how did tipping play into that? Yeah.
You didn't pay a wage. Mr. Smith and his family were, and everything that they earned along the way was based on the service of that individual. So if you were a former slave, you came from that, and your understanding of servitude, this is the verbiage that they used. It's like the understanding of the former slave servitude, understands that service gives wealth, in essence. So they didn't pay any wage. You didn't get an hourly. You didn't get a weekly wage. You just worked for tips.
So they almost like created that as a way to like
They
save money and like, so that's so wild. Like,
save money.
Yeah.
They didn't pay anything.
It's
Actually,
interesting
Charles
how they,
Pullman
like,
said a very, very interesting thing. He said, "No, these people are built to serve.
Yeah.
Like they understand the understanding of service."
So that's
Servitude.
So they took slavery and they said these people
Mr. Pullman said, "I'm not going to pay any wage."
Yeah, that's so interesting. Like that's what I'm kind of interested in. Is like they took
tips.
so some guy said there are slaves.
Some guy.
Mr. Pullman. Okay.
It's important.
You're right. He does have a name. No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
This random fucker.
No, but it's like he took.
Set
He was like,
the tone.
it's like as fucked up as it is.
For our life.
It was as fucked up as it is. It was built off a businessman wanting fucking cheap labor to bring slaves in, and he said, "Look,
No labor.
what do you mean? No, but they were providing something.
Sure, but
they weren't going to pay him.
I'm not paying you
Right,
shit."
so it was almost like a business thing that like that's so interesting because I didn't know that before. Right now, like he literally took slaves and was like, "It's a business. Yeah, it's a business."
Well,
Hospitality.
hold on. Let's not
Sorry, I just-
trash. No,
Yeah, I know,
it's
I know, I
important
know.
because it's
I know,
like
I know.
Charles Pullman was smart. He was
Yeah.
like the people who can serve well and provide this.
That's right. It's interesting. A different way to put it. Right.
Well, in the world of hospitality, in the world of service, we call add value.
Right.
So I want to just express what add value means. to you and I, and anybody out there listening. Add value means I'm the owner. I'm not going to spend any money, but I'm going to charge X amount.
Yeah.
How do you get better value for the customer without spending any money, but increase things? And it's service. The things that we're talking about now is you and our connection is service. Like how people will come back and spend tons more money over the next 15, 20, 30 years with their grandchildren because they realized the Hotel Del or Stout gave them some level of service that's beyond the pale. I'm not going to Wendy's.
Well, there's service, and it's also the way you feel when you come and go.
Oh,
when you're there. The
wow.
feeling you get.
You just struck a chord to me. Say
Yeah.
that again. Say that one more time because it's important for anybody listening.
It is, because I think that, like, you know, there's levels of service, but there's also, like, there's the emotional, like, this is how I feel
Visceral.
when I come and talk to these people and I enter these buildings.
It's visceral. It moves the like I said, the solar plexus. I kid about that, but it's like, it makes this thing twitch.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I want to spend
Emotions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Emotions so important to this discussion because it adds value,
Yeah.
right? And at the next level, it propels you to a higher level of service. There's an expectation. So Waldorf Astoria, like we can go down the list of like where we are now is based on the history of this conversation, which is service,
Service. Yeah, it's interesting.
right? So let's go back very quickly to Europe, just so we can just recap where that comes from. Like European history and European is all based on aristocracy. It's the essence of service versus the served. Those that own a plantation or own land, and those that service that land, right? Kings, divine rights of kings, and then those that adhere to that world, right?
Right.
We still inherit that. But as Americans, the best part of this conversation is like, there's a certain point where like, I watch staff that goes like, that guy was a dick. I was like, yeah, he was. So what are you gonna do about it?
How you going to turn them?
How?
Yeah.
Is your job to tell that guy, you know what, sir? You said something to me that was offensive to me as a human being, and I don't think I'm going to bring you your drinks anymore. You've been overserved. Right?
The entitlements.
Sir,
Yeah.
you need to stop. And there's a certain point where you're like, you know what? If you're hustling this conversation a little better, you're going to win him back.
I like that aspect.
Yeah?
Why? Because there is the like, because, okay, you've worked in the hospitality long enough where we deal with, it's so interesting because Hotel del Coronado and the price,
Pinnacle.
you deal with, and I will never, I work there.
High
The guests
end.
are great. There are amazing people who come in and are very kind. But whether you work at any hotel or any bar, there's customers who are very challenging and they want to take their, they want to let it out on you. And we deal with it.
Time.
Right. And the way I deal with it at the pub versus the way I deal with it at the hotel, it's two different people. And there's almost like this, I lost my train of thought a little bit.
No. I'll get you back there
Yeah,
because I get this.
Yeah.
And so I
It's
told you
different.
I worked in emergency medicine.
Yeah.
And we used to call this triaging.
Okay.
It's a French word, and you all know it. Everybody knows this. Triaging is to divide into 3 portions. This is critical. This
Okay.
person's going to die. This guy's fucked up, but we can save his leg or his arm or his whatever.
Yeah.
This guy, he got a, there's a bullet grazed to his ear. This guy's gonna be fine. So what we call emergent, urgent, and critical, right?
Okay.
That's what we call triage. Triage, 1, 2, 3. If we apply the same principles of triage, of war, to hospitality, we understand that things are delineated based on strata, we call it. Like, this is a high-spend individual. This is a mid-spend individual. This guy, we don't quite know. He's a wild card. He might be a dick and complain, or he might actually come back. He had such a great time. He actually came back. Like, that's the thing that, like, you and I need to look at and go, like, how do we bring people back? Because the spend, it's what Travis used to laugh and call the long haul or the long hustle.
Yeah.
Versus the short
yeah.
hustle.
Yeah.
And that's not, I don't mean to say like I'm trying to get money out of your pocket. I'm like, I want you to come back.
Yeah. Repeat customers, of course. Yeah. You don't want one and dones.
Do you make more money off your locals at Stout, your regulars at Stout, or people who just learned about how awesome Stout is?
The value of the people who have been there, of course.
Long term. And that's a long hustle.
It's a long term, yeah, right.
Short
you treat
hustle.
people differently.
There's a great quote, and I want to not misquote this to Maya Angelou, but I think it is hers. She says, people don't often remember the words that you said. But
remember
they
how
always
you make them feel.
How
you made them feel. Oh,
and didn't
dude,
that
that's
resonate with you at some point? You're like, holy shit.
You want to know why that's resonated with me?
Why?
Because I feel like at times there's part of me that's like, dude, you've made people feel bad. And I'm like, fuck, I hate that. You know? It's like when you...
people should know.
No, but like, you're so right about that. That is what it is. And yeah.
I had this... Just on that topic, I had so many great interactions today. Today was a banner day for me in fun because I met 6 different families. I have all their names down and I have ridiculous.
When you meet people, do you write them down?
Everything.
You know what? Dude, I love that because people have criticized me for
Everything.
that. People criticize me for that.
Fuck
I'm sorry,
them.
go on.
No.
Keep going.
Take notes.
I fucking do take notes. And you know what?
Take notes is one thing, but keeping notes? What's the old Seinfeld line?
I don't mean like...
I guess you guys know how to take reservations, but do you know how to keep reservations?
Here's the thing. I've worked at multiple bars, and people give me shit that I write down. This is John. He came from fucking Sacramento. He does this. That's how I think. That's how I'm like, I'm hungry. I want to get Corey back in, like... I don't know.
Taylor McQuade, can I ask you one question? Have you ever written down on a thing like I have to, like, John. They're all Johns. Fat John, skinny John.
Yeah, of course.
Dick-headed John.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, the old joke is that pops up on your thing is like, skinny, bald John. And you're like, oh, my God.
Which one is this? Yeah.
No, it pops up and you give it to the guest, and the guest is like, "I'm skinny."
Oh no,
fat John,
no,
skinny,
no.
bald
I've never.
John.
No. I'm very cognizant about the names of the tabs I start.
But it's an ongoing joke about us.
Yeah.
Can I give you a little secret?
Yeah, tell me.
Of a little thing that I like to do that I think every human being that watches this podcast might get. Don't just get. Well, how do I know your last name? You're a fucking bartender at a bar I go to. How do I know your last name? How do I know every fucking person at your bar's last name, including...
Last name is a lot.
Yeah.
I didn't know your last name until like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, we just talked about this.
I know.
Menotti. You nice.
Even though one of your...
No. Menotti, you nice.
Menotti, you nice.
That's my ongoing joke.
I didn't know, even though it's... okay, so how do you know everybody's last name?
So anybody who's out there in the universe still watching this, one of my friends comes in and orders a drink.
A Menotti,
and
I know.
Goes,
and I'm dumb enough to not know what it fucking is.
I'll take a Menotti. And this motherfucker is Googling, like, what's a Menotti? Like,
I just didn't. I was like, so like,
it's not your fault.
He's awesome. I'm like, Menotti?
He thinks you know my name.
No, my brain, I told you, I'm linear. I know this. This is what I know. And I'm trying to expand this. But
cool.
How do you remember people's last names? Tell me.
So, working in hospitals, we would code things by a 4-digit code or a 6-digit code. It was basically the first 4 letters of your name. Chang, C-H-A-N-G, right? Or whatever. And Tran Swang. I'm like, T-S-A-N. Okay. So it's basically everything was coded. No, I'm
Going to
saying
Vietnam? Like, what's up? What are we
No,
doing?
this is the humor of this. Is like Americans, like everybody's not
kidding.
like Joseph
I'm just
Smith.
kidding. I know.
We're
I
all
know,
not
I'm just
fucking
kidding.
LDS.
It's
people.
fucking San Diego. We got
No.
so much from the border and everything.
His name, by the way, Tay, first three letters of his first name,
Yeah.
and his last name, MCQ.
So it would be Tay Mick.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, interesting. Oh, that's interesting. Huh.
So it's coding things
way
to get them.
Oh.
So we went on earlier, and he's like, Ellis Island. Like, we were going into this whole thing is like, when the family came over, it's like, stop this conversation. The important part is knowing who you are, not who your family lineage is, but knowing enough about family lineages and how important it is to me helped translate that portion of understanding family and self-identity. Those two things are important, right? Oftentimes you'll hear me say something. I was like, Travis, what's your family name? I say that, and people sometimes go, what did you ask me? I was like, it's a European way of asking your name. I don't need to know your first name. Your Christian name is Taylor. You're no longer Travis.
Is he actually sleeping?
He's like, am I in the middle of this conversation? But your Christian name, like your family's name,
Taylor McQuade.
isn't MCQ. So for me, it was a way of identifying other humans and also moving forward to be able to, because identifying people is only part of the trick. And this is the trick we're talking about. Service involves helping you know that I know you and you're with me and you're my clan and you walked into my bar or you walked in here. Someone told you. And I want to know how you got here. Did you stumble across it? Did someone guide you here? Oh, they told me to come to the Stout, and the Stout was that. And then I found out there was not two pianos there. I was like, no, ma'am, that's Shout. That's the Shout
That's
House.
very funny.
And this is the Stout House.
Dude, we get that so much.
It's understanding patterns is what I'm getting at. The trick, my friends, is identifying patterns, and that is the basis of the human genome. It is the basis of the human's understanding of self, identity, and community. And sorry, a little drunk, so I said community. I meant to say community, but community is the best part of this thing. It's like, how do we identify? One of the great tricks I learned along the way was this. How do I connect with Billy? How do I connect with Mary, Maria, and Mr. Rabinowitz, and the Joneses? And I might know something about
That's the base of what we do. Connecting.
Connect.
So, can I be honest with you? That's
Yes.
one of the hardest things for me.
Why? Because you're selfish?
Well, that, but no, because, I don't know. There's a reason I'm starting.
Why are you in the service industry if you're selfish?
I'll tell you why. Because that's one of my biggest struggles, and that's what is drawing me to this.
This conversation?
This conversation, this genre,
What's the name of this podcast?
Wellness on the Rocks.
On the Rocks.
So hold on. That is what draws me to doing this, is because it is
I
one
still
of my
have
biggest.
ice.
It's one of my biggest challenges is connectivity. That's if you think about it, I try to do the things I'm afraid of. And connectivity for some people is challenging. A lot of people, and that's why they come to the bar. And it's almost that's how I kind of relate to people. That's kind of how I understand a lot of my guests, is because I can understand what they go through. And so I try to give them a little bit. Crazy motherfucker whose name is not to be said. I get you, bro. I know that you're coming here and you're kind of tapped, but you've had a rough life mentally, physically, emotionally, sexually, whatever it is. And you might have a little bit, just take a little 30 minutes and this might be the best part of your day. I've tried to remind myself that it's hard because a lot of people who come into our jobs, the best part of their day is when they see us and they have challenging lives. And I'm a little jaded because it's when you do it 40, 50, 60 hours a week, you're just fuck, it's on autopilot. But we do everything you've talked about is like people have challenging lives and they come to escape. And that is the core of hospitality, of bartending, of, kindness is like we offer that.
Changed my life.
Well, that's exactly where I'm.
Hey,
that's exactly
Mr.
what I was going to
DJ,
say. I can't. I'm not a fucking therapist.
No.
I don't go to school. I can only give you the best of what I got. And what happens is that
money.
fucking people come in there. No, I'm going to change my tone. The thing that happens is that people come in looking at you as if you're their. I need you. You'd be surprised. And you're not surprised, but like the listeners. 5, 6, 7 nights a week, every night. Taylor, help me. I'm like, they do this. I need you. And I'm like, that happens a lot where I'm like, I got to push back a little bit. I can only offer so much. I'm not a fucking psychologist. I want to be kind to you. I want to be genuine and listen to you, but like, there's boundaries.
So earlier,
that's how I feel.
I said something and you were like you had this physical reaction to it.
What did I say? What? Which part?
Because I feel like you want to get back to this, which
What
is
part?
I don't want to ever build barriers. I don't ever want to like tell guests that.
Really?
Like
We do we do different things because I need that. I need barriers.
No, you have to.
Yeah. You have to.
You're mentally well. I'm mentally unstable.
Are you? Whoa, wait.
Yes.
You don't actually think that.
I can
Stop
prove
fucking
it.
playing.
I can prove it.
No fucking way.
Yeah.
It's perspective because you can look at it that way. You can look at it the other way.
Is it?
Yeah. What do you mean? Talk to me.
Talk to a therapist. Like there's a certain point where you need to separate the things that your identity and who you are is not tied to your money-making abilities. However, in the grand scheme of things, it is. We choose the professions of who we are. Or we die, or we don't thrive, or we move forward to a place where like we've hit a dead wall. There are so many obstacles in our lives as humans, not just as people of service, but there are things in our lives that are obstacles. Everything gets in your way. But you have to ask this one question. What is it getting in the way of? Like, why do I not connect with my guests? Why do I look like I'm hustling money, right? Why do I look, or what do I feel unclean about a transaction? And those things are porous. If you ask me a week from now, I might say, oh my God, I made this fucking great connection with this family. They came from Miami. They haven't been, their grandfather came here back during the war, and they knew this story, like those sort of things. Connections are clean between you and I, Travis and I, friends of ours. But when it's transactional,
changes the game.
Why is that? Everything's transactional. Don't deny that everything's transactional.
Yeah.
The question is, what are you getting from it and what are you giving from it? If you actually, like your parents, your grandparents, like who own McQuade's clothing store, like it's a good value for the thing that you're giving me. I'm getting gabardine from the Northeast. And it's like there's a certain point about our transactional lives that is real. It's not like it's like I'm hustling you.
Well, let me just interject.
Please.
It's because it's fucking, like we talked about earlier, how some people don't have the knowledge that you have and they need to hustle. It's also like, the way the world is in America, and we're in Southern California, is like, we need to make money to feed our fucking kids. Like I'm not gonna speak on anyone in particular, but like I know like some people who I work with or worked for, like they got kids to feed. If I have fucking kids to feed, bro, I'm doing whatever I got to do to get that.
Kids,
you know what I mean?
Kids, you don't even know.
So that's what I'm talking about. Is like, You don't have children. I don't have children. That shit's-
Livelihood.
when you're like, it changes the fucking way you like your hustle and everything like that, you know? And like, it's not a bad thing or a good thing or whatever, but like, there is that sense of like, if I got fucking kids to feed, dude, and they're not having their goddamn cereal in the morning, I'm moving a little differently.
So I had a good friend of mine who was a union organizer who worked, and she would say the most ridiculous things to me. She said this phrase often. She said, "You're taking food out of my children's pockets, and you're taking money out of my kids' mouths." She mixed metaphors
I was
to
gonna
the
say.
point that it was hysterical.
Yeah, that's fine.
But she said it all the time. It was basically, get out of my fucking pocket. I've made my life. Deal with the fact that I serve and I make connections with individuals. Don't
That's how I fucking think.
stick your
That's how I
fucking
fucking think.
hand in my pocket.
Yeah. Well, not that part, but yeah. I'm sorry. I'm listening.
No, it's the greedy part of it. Like, and it's
it's
important because at certain point, it's like, it's not just like, hey, this is this thing I like to do. It's like,
right. It's like,
I
yo,
have
there's
kids.
a need.
I've got diapers. I can't fucking fulfill that.
Right.
I've got a child going to a school that's, you know, like I can't move them to the next neighborhood, but they can get better.
Yeah. No. There's
care.
like, dude, I'll literally.
I will fucking murder you.
If you come between me and my money, I'll fight you. You know, and there is, and that's what.
What's up with that?
I can't speak on that. I'm not going to speak on things I don't know about because I don't.
You don't have kids and a family.
But I've worked with people who. I feel like honestly,
Two different dynamics.
Two different dynamics, and you and I are not going to sit here and have a conversation about that. Or maybe you have experienced that, but
It's
I have
important.
not. I have not. All I'm trying to say is there. I don't know. I think that there is different levels of hustle, and like, and that's one of my questions for you. And there's like, we've only covered 10% of this 2 papers.
Sorry, we have so many more episodes for you people.
But like, there is like one of my questions for you is what is your why? Why do you do what you do? Why do you show up to work every day? And like, that's very different for a lot of people.
Short answer. I love people.
You love people.
I love people. No. I have no hatred for people. And even people who are yelling at me or got a gun in I've had fucking...
You had a gun in your face? Wow.
I have so many great stories that you don't even know.
One-
I have people outside the window yelling, screaming. There's a certain point where I get like... so intensively like, you're disturbing my sleep. You're making me angry. But in fact, all humans are the same. All humans have different motivational factors. That's not up to me. Your daddy didn't like you. Your mommy molested you. Your uncle paid you money to do this. Like whatever is... in the grand scheme of things, the motivational factor of your life, my life, Travis's life, and anybody watching's life is immaterial. Reaction and action are the two things that everything is not, as my boss used to say, not everything's transactional.
Yep.
Some things are actionable, meaning like, you are buying a hamburger for me, I will get the best hamburger for you and give you this. But some things are actually... There is value to the interaction of our lives.
100%. Both things you just said are true.
Has nothing to do with what people are paying for. 13 cents for a burger, 14 cents for the lettuce that goes on it, 8 cents for the bun. Those are transactional things. Worth and value are two different things.
So, all right. I have a question. Trust me, I got a lot.
Go ahead, Jesus
no,
on the mic.
Well, like, what do you guys? Do you guys have any questions? Like, I don't want to, what do you guys?
What's your sex life like outside of here?
I don't know if the.
It's salon for tonight.
No. I don't fucking. If you think I have a
Is that
problem
what's
answering
happening?
that, you want to talk about that? This is how I feel. I am at a point where I've been struggling to get laid. Look, mental health, look, this is a podcast. Honestly, I'm not even joking about this. I'm at a point where, sex is a real thing in our lives. And I've been at times where I can't meet chicks and I don't know how to talk to girls. And then I've been at a point where I'm just a fucking whore. And I don't mind talking about either one. No. I'm not, there's no joking with this. I think I went through a little fucking hoe period. I was a little hoe at one point when I was here. And I was sleeping with women that don't serve me and that are, not good for me.
Good choice of words.
You know what?
No, I don't mean like service.
No. I'm talking about I'm talking about women who aren't good for me.
People aren't good for me.
I was given
people.
There was energies that I was bringing into my life that I'm like, you know what? That's not good for me. And I don't judge anybody who sleeps with whoever. If you want to get married and then have sex, or if you want to fuck your way through your life, it's not about judging. But it's like I've been through periods where I'm like, I wish I could have that connection with people. And then I've been through periods where I'm like, dude, you got to, I'm coming off, it sounds bad, but like, I'm not just giving myself out to random people. I'm at a point where I'm raising my standards and I'm saying, you know what?
I'm not hitting home runs, not singles.
I'm not giving my fucking energy out to anybody who throws a single my way or a slow pitch my way.
I got on base. Yeah. I didn't score.
And I think
it's not. I mean,
it's not about physical appearance. That's not what I'm talking about. Look, you want to check my resume, bro? I am not a what's the word I'm looking for? Mm-hmm. I'm not. I'm fucking not that smart right now. It's not that I don't have standards. No, it's not that my standards are low or high. Mm-hmm. I'm just like, I'm looking for quality people in my life.
You need an 80-year-old woman. That's what you need.
No.
If she gets good, takes out the teeth.
No. I'm looking for quality people in my life, not to sexualize them, but like, no. But I'm saying is like,
sexual. It's investment of time. Is what you're talking about.
It's an investment of emotion. It's investment of emotion. Investment of emotion and energy, and it's just like, I've done the drunken. I'm gonna go, San Diego, the bartender. It's like, I'm raising my prices. I'm raising my standards, and I don't mean that by physicality. I mean that by like who people are and the energy that I bring into my life. I genuinely, if you check my fucking tapes, you check my resume. It's not about looks, dude. I don't mind girls who. It's more about like the energy that we connect with. That's what I'm about. So that's about the chicks that I'm fucking. Facts.
But a hot woman, like a woman of aesthetical purtitude, those are not necessarily people that you're like, I want to spend time with you, man. You give meaning and gravitas to my life. Human beings that suck your energy, not your cock, but suck your energy, and those that give you energy are people that like, this is a point, like at what point in our existence we're like, I don't want to be around that person. That person makes me feel better.
It's different for everybody. Everybody's different. It's different for you. It's different than Travis. Different than me.
Tolerance levels.
But it's just like you like a certain thing, and there's when I worked with you at your place and when I work at my place, there are girls who are fucking 9s and 10s who are like flexing on me, but I see that they're terrible people, and I'm like, dude, I don't want you in my like, no, I don't want that. Like, let me show you my titties. You're gonna give me a free drink, and like, I don't want that shit, bro. I want quality people. That's why I'm interviewing you, because I think
you're in this equation. You're asking Corey, he married me, so what am I?
Sir.
Am I good?
Sir, Best question of the night. My answer very quickly is.
Yeah.
Well, why are you asking him? He's married.
He asked me, Travis, you were sleeping. Okay, I'm sorry. He asked me.
I woke up and you're asking him how his dating life is.
No, that is not how it happens.
Travis, you make me complete.
Okay.
And I think very highly of myself. I'm like, not as a dick, but I'm like, I contribute.
Well, yeah, you pay half the rent. I mean, you absolutely.
I contribute.
More than that.
I contribute
big time. Yeah.
I contribute to the community. You make me better. So, this is important to me. I can tell you one thing about our relationship that I think the world could benefit from. You're a better human being than I'll ever be. And more importantly,
not true. You've made more children laugh. That's how I think you count.
You make me a better human. And there's two reasons why. It's our connection, the depth of our connection, and the love that we both have for each other. I feel like it's palpable. I like feel like I'm like Travis really loves me. Like that's the same feeling I got as a child growing up with a family that loved me. And so let's talk about that, because the best part about service is twofold. One is that you came from a place where like service was gold. How do I say this? Is like it was the most important thing in one's life. If it was church, if it was school, it was community, whatever it was. The most important thing is like serving others raised your, not wealth, but it's like your understanding of your self-worth. Here's a great conversation I had today with staff members on this same subject. And I just want to share this with you. This was the greatest moment of the week. It was a guest that walked in and she yelled out, Jamie, hey, baby, Buster's going to be here later on today. She's saying this to one of my valets.
Is she from Georgia?
The family is actually from Georgia. She said, baby,
Your
baby.
accent was very good.
No, she's like,
sorry,
baby,
Bart.
she'll be back in later on today. She just wanted me to tell you she misses you. And I was like, this is a weird conversation. Then she yelled out on the same driveway, Dwayne, come here, baby, give me a hug. I love you so much. You know that Dick can't make it with us this weekend, but Mary Jane's going to be here. She just wanted you to know she misses you. And I walked back to the, I sat back for a second. I was like,
Southern hospitality, baby.
what the fuck was that I just witnessed? And it was a guest who has come here for the last 28 years, and she has identified and grown up around some of my staff. And she's connected in a great way that she feels that she can scream out across the driveway, Jamie, Dwayne, Mary Jean loves you. She wants you to know she's not coming, but she wants you to. And I was like, I'm not making fun of it, but I was like, that made me feel fucking the cockles of like the warmth that came from my hearing it was not as much as watching her being excited by it, and then watching my staff laugh, hug, talk, reel. And it was like this moment. It's like, this is a hotel that's been around for 136 years. It's like that woman connection with those guys over her history pales in comparison to the wood and the structural sort of integrity of the hotel.
Can I ask you a question, Corey?
Yes.
So I've only been working at the Dell.
How many years?
I started in 2016.
16.
2016.
8 years in, bro. Oof.
Working out on the beach.
Woof.
The majesty of the property, like as like I could be in the worst mood. Like I could be late, stressed out, like whatever it is.
You walk
like,
outside.
and even after, and especially after a long day at work like this, just like the physical property, just has a I have a response to it, just like an emotion.
Visceral.
Is that yeah, exactly a visceral response? Is that something that you've just experienced? And that's why you stay? Because I imagine you could have. We've talked about this. You could have like become something else in some other degree, moved up to climb the ladder or whatever, but you just loved the happiness that working there.
I've had
Great question.
There are a couple of things that intrigue me in our discussion, and that is history. Right? So let's say the history of the Padres here in town, or the histories of the zoo here, or the history of Belmont Park.
We have
or
a
the
new
Dell.
sales manager here on Task Force, and
Linda.
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 And I threw it out.
Love you.
It's not actually on her
Bucket list.
like. It's not actually like on her itinerary of what she's doing, but I think I'm going to force that she does that. I think part of being a salesperson at the Hotel Dell is you do that 90-minute history tour and you kind of
Facts.
understand
Yeah.
that. Because it does set us apart.
Yeah.
Like it's really.
I
what
wish
makes us unique.
bars did that too. I wish Stout made me do that. I wish JG Mellon made me do that. I wish
Tivoli's a good one because you've got somebody that you have connected with who's the GM of Tivoli, and that's a very old bar. Like, and what I want to say about this is like you've got a couple of them in town: the Hotel Dell, Tivoli. You got the Longshoreman's Place. What's it
Waterfront.
called? Waterfront. Sorry, Waterfront. There's like 6 of them that are over 100 years old.
Yeah.
Does the history, like, people were drunk and they drank here, and then they got. You don't
I
want to
don't
fucking
know.
hear about
Look,
that.
here's the honest truth. I don't know why. Like, I can't put it to words right now. History means something. There is so much, like, I don't know, because it's like the history of my family means something. The history of your family, you know, it's like, I don't know, because it doesn't always fucking go well.
The hair on the back of my neck just stood up. Why?
History, like, you can
Identity.
fuck it up.
Yeah.
It doesn't always go up. Like, life and tradition and family is like this, and it's like the fact that I don't know, but
There's value.
there's meaning. There's meaning. You
Well,
know?
meaning comes
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
value
Both,
is the
both.
base of it,
Yeah.
but meaning has a value to it. Value and time is what everybody is spending money on.
What's the most important thing to you guys in life? What's the most important thing?
Connections, love,
Really?
beauty,
My thing is time.
humans.
I think, like, I don't know if this is the right answer. I think time, like, do we enjoy the time that we spend?
Two things. Time's important, but enjoyment of time
Yeah.
is not as important
I haven't figured it out yet, but
as
it's
giving
like,
value to time.
yeah, that's interesting. Giving value to time.
What, Travis?
That's a good one. I like that.
Giving value to time.
Giving value, but it's because it's not always it's not always receiving. It's you give yourself the time you have. You give the hard work to hopefully receive time in the future. It's like there's that balance with that. I haven't figured that quite out. I'm like,
Understanding how your pocket gets padded.
Yeah.
That's the joke I always tell my team. I'm here to help you pad your pocket. And basically I'm saying this is a profession, not a job.
yeah, but it's
And
like
those
if I
two
get-
things go, they're a suture that goes through things.
If you can pad your pocket and then you go spend it on the fucking strip club,
I
then
don't worry
it's
about
like-
that. It's
no,
not.
but then, no, you do worry about that though. You know?
If you spent your money in that strip club, did you value the time
Yeah,
that you
but that's
spent
not.
there?
But like,
Is that what your focus is? I don't care.
I know.
What I do care about is the money and the value. Value and money go hand in hand, but it's a different word. Go hand in hand with the time that you spent with me. Right? Are you and I enjoying our time together?
Yes.
Yeah. Why? There's value to our conversation.
Correct.
Travis's conversation.
So it's transactional.
Boo.
That's where my mind just went.
It should. It should.
But that's not why I'm here. That's
Your-
not why I'm here.
Your balance
not
between
why I'm here.
transactions and actions. There's transactions and there's actions.
Right.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
In terms of this value conversation, right? A transaction is what? I want this, and you will give me that, and I will give you this, and this is the value of that, and it's very. It's
You're
very,
right.
It's very formulaic.
Spreadsheet. Yeah.
Yes. And that's what they, quote, end quote, value. Like people who are like, I'm here to make money and I want to do this. Or I'm here to spend money and I want to do that.
Yeah.
Like the best part of this conversation is about this. Guests who are mad that they're not getting the value that they spent. And then owners who are like, why are you not giving me the money that I expected in this time? It's transactional, but you have to remove transactions from actions. This is the best part of this conversation. Transaction is like, you give me this for that. Action is what? The value proposition. Like, you want to come back? I remember you. I remember the Johnsons every time they come back. I remember the fucking Buntings or the McQuades every time they come back.
Here's the old question, as I learned this from a really great teacher, Sarah Glennon.
Sarah,
Is
thank you.
anything we do selfless, like in life?
No.
So I'm not asking for a direct answer, but just like, I don't know, like I try to think about that. Is all my life like reward based, you know? Like, am I able to do something for you, Corey,
Whoa.
out of selflessness, or you, Travis, out of selflessness? You know, I don't know. I'm not.
Deep.
I'm just like, it's what we're talking about, you know, hospitality, all that shit. It's like, I do care about the people who come into the restaurant, But do I care about them to the level that I'll fucking go above and beyond and break my back and do all this crazy shit?
Take a bullet for them?
It's like some people have different levels to that, you know? Some people I would. Not many, but there are people. But it's like, even taking a bullet for somebody, there is... No. I don't know. I don't know these answers. These are the questions that I'm putting out there, you know?
This is strata.
Right? I don't know the answers to these questions. That's why I'm asking you, and that's why I'm talking to you. You know what I mean?